I'm going to let these gents introduce themselves to you. You've heard from Rick already this morning, but we'll get him to introduce, give a little bit of background, like the 30-second, Ben, looking at you, on the industry, and then where you're at right now, and then we'll get into topic of conversation.
My name is Ben Hadley. I am founder of AutoGenius. What else would you like to know?
I don't know. You've done some stuff in the industry.
I have done some stuff. All right. So I was born. So my family has 4 dealerships in Burlington, Vermont. I never thought I'd be in auto though. And I ended up being super early dealer.com, ended up doing a bunch of other really cool projects. And I realized that like there's a big thing missing in automotive. And that is at the beginning of technology, it was like there was a disconnect in knowledge between the dealer and the tech companies. Today, that gap has closed. And so what used to make sense is that you'd have an engineer go and make something cool with very little input from the dealer. Today, because that knowledge gap is closed, all we should be looking towards is the dealer for exactly what they need. So I always joke, like I have a 3-year-old, and I'm like, we gotta put our listening ears on. That's, I think, my goal is to be a vendor that puts their listening ears on.
Rick's like,
Gotta follow that up. My name's Rick Reichert. I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I'm a Virgo, and I like long walks on the beach.
OH.
Third generation car dealer. Lucky enough to take over a family business. We've got 11 franchises, really 3.5 locations. And I like this topic. We're talking about customer lifecycle management, and really it's a relationship business. It always has been. And I've always tried to find new ways to stay ahead of the consumer behavior curve, how consumers want to conduct business. Auto's kind of always been 5 years behind the rest of the retail world. We're finally catching up. Luckily, there's great technology out there to improve the productivity. But at the end of the day, it's about people, and it's about innovating, and it's about marketing.
there we go. I like it. Dan.
All right, Dan Bannister. I've been in the automotive industry for 32 years. I started selling cars right out of college. I thought I was going to be playing the NBA. That didn't work, so started to become a salesperson, and didn't intend for it to last very long, but it did. And about 10 years ago, I was able to buy out my partners for my first store. So I have a Nissan store in Chesapeake, Virginia, a Nissan store in Norfolk, Virginia, and I have a store about 30 minutes from here, which is a Ford store. So I'm first generation dealer, and I have 2 kids that have interest of being in the car business.
See, that gets me excited. My
That's a
kids,
win.
yeah, that's a huge win in my opinion. My kids are both here, and they're like, my son's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna do something, in cars if I'm not a soccer player. It's his kind of thing. So that's awesome. All right, so I'm gonna set the stage because, there are so many people in auto talking about retention, right, as a word, especially manufacturers, and even more particularly mid and post-COVID, because we've had significant issues with retention, especially within brands, within OEM brands, but as well as brands, local brands, like regional brands, like dealer group brands. And so I wanted to bring these 3 because I think they bring unique perspectives, and the way that they approach customer lifecycle management is similar but different. And I want to take the position of the fact that as you drive a better customer lifecycle management and drive toward that, what you do is reduce the need for marketing costs, advertising spend, and low impact dollars into the marketplace, and you increase the usage of high impact activities with your current database. I'm going to start with, I'm actually going to start with Ben, and this is because I probably know him the best. We're just good friends. And we talk about the most ridiculous things. But I want him to kind of set the stage with, and if you don't mind, just how you see the data that's already in the DMS, and like the math that you see the majority of dealers could accomplish with the data that's already in their DMS to get to the sales and service volume that they desire on a monthly basis? Because you've walked me through that a little bit.
Sure.
You know, so let's walk through that, just like the math, like the simple math, and then what does it take to accomplish that math?
Okay, so yeah, I would say for the last few years, what we focused on is maybe the test drive. And now we've started transitioning, especially with like guys like Brian Kramer, David Long, et cetera, into the service drive, acquiring, because that's a problem right now. The place that we are probably missing in terms of drives is the hard drive. There is just a ton of customer information in our hard drives that we are not actually capitalizing on. And so if you think about a typical dealership, maybe has 60,000 records or something, right, of current customers, people that they've already done a transaction with. If I went to a dealer right now and I said, who is your number one? That would be a really hard question to answer. Most dealers would look at you and go, I don't know who my number one is. Okay, let's quantify that a little differently. Who's the person or the family or the segment that tends to buy multiple services and vehicles from you? Ooh, I don't really know who that person is. Okay, so if we could, like wave a magic wand tomorrow, and you could look, you would probably find, even outside of like family relationships, there are people in that database that are so loyal to you, that constantly buy cars from you, right? That they have a way higher lifetime value than your typical net new customer. Meaning that if I could get every one of my customers, and I knew in my heart that every time I got a customer in the door, they were also gonna buy every other vehicle from my dealer group, that I would take that deal over some, dude that drove an hour and a half away that I just know he's never gonna do service with. I know he's never gonna come back and buy another car from me, right? Those have two totally different values. The person that's 10 miles away that could come in constantly is probably worth, I would say, let's say they could buy 6 cars over a lifetime and you made $5,000 every single time, that's 60 grand. What's amazing about that though, is that if we do it right, we're only marketing to that person once and then minimally keeping that engagement alive, that relationship alive. That's where Kyle's talking about your marketing budget would actually go down when you start really focusing on the life cycle management of a customer rather than just trying to get net new.
Okay. No. So Rick, let's talk a little bit more practically, because I'm sure like Ben's maybe being a little avant-garde with the, like, you have no clue who that is. Cause I'm sure you have customers who, like, have repeat buy, they service with you. You can probably call them by name. They probably have your cell phone at this point if they're not your friend, right? And they're almost a part of the family business. So we do anecdotally know some of those, right? But let's maybe like think in your head of one of those, right? And answer the question from the perspective of like, why is that person that way, right? Or why is that group of people that way? How would you personify the relationship that your dealership has with that person or group of people that are kind of like triggered in your mind right now as I say that?
We want to empower our employees. Our company purpose statement is to create lifelong positive relationships. And when we think about, and it begins from the company to the employees having that positive relationship, therefore they can have a positive relationship with the customers that they determine. And we want to empower our people to be able to pay attention to that data. Something like they live within 10 miles of the dealership, there's a 10 time greater chance they can come back to do maintenance visits with us. You can do oil change and things like that. Depending on what they buy and kind of what their lifestyle is, and be able to connect with them. There is a saying, I don't know who I'm going to quote, but is why can't we have an authentic relationship with our customers on their terms? And most of the things we've dealt with in the industry from like a CRM standpoint have been triggers, right? There's something that happens, an event, a birthday, an anniversary, an oil change visit. Now it's going to trigger something. That doesn't necessarily mean that's when the customer is ready to be contacted or what that looks like. And to try to take that positive relationship and personalize it, and not just be able to text me they're coming in or something like that, but be able to have that relationship with someone in the store that not only knows them, and I mean know them, like about 6 months ago, I went to one of our vendor friends who's not here on this trip, so I'm not going to say his name or embarrass him. We went to a local steakhouse, and when you go in, they print off this little ticket, and he grabs the waiter and he says, "What does that say?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't want to show you this, right?" And he's like, "No, because they keep notes on the customer," and it said on the thing, don't overcook his steak, make sure there's a lot of ice in his glass, and he will tip very well. And it said right on this little sheet of paper, letting the waiter know what little tips, what is this guy's hot button? And like, we don't have that. Like, I've been wanting something that when someone calls in, like, that's what pops up on the screen. Not just their car. Hey, are you calling about your 2017 Explorer? No. Hey, looks like your son had a soccer tournament last weekend. How'd they do? Bring up that personalization part and be able to try to connect with people on the level that they want to connect on, rather than just the car. The car is just a symptom, right? The relationship is the purpose. So I love everything that you guys are doing. That's some really good stuff. So yeah, when you take technology and you empower your people with the right technology and you let them have that personalization and experience, then they can maintain a positive relationship. And like you just said, it goes back to the old divorce theory. It's cheaper to keep her. Right? The cost of acquiring a new customer is astronomical. And there's so many different ways. Go look at all the vendors out there, all the digital marketing, all the different marketing things that we can do. It's so saturated. It's so hard to get a mass message in front of somebody to create a new customer that's never been in the store before.
Have you ever done okay, this is like brand new thought, right? And this is, in the SaaS world, they talk a lot about cost of acquired customer, right? Which for us is like cost per car sold, but a little bit different, right? So have you ever looked at okay, this percentage of customers last month were repeat or referral buyers, and this many of our customers were net new customers. And so if I spent X amount of dollars on acquisition minded stuff, that my actual cost per car sold on acquisition customers was this, and on like retention or referral customers was this. Have you ever done like a study like that?
Yeah. I mean, we look at it and it's dramatically less. I mean, you're talking about 70% less money that you need to spend, but that doesn't mean that you spend the cost to acquire and then you sit back and wait. Because to spend that money after they buy the vehicle, whether it's a coupon, whether it's an invite them back in for a free detail and oil change, we have a accessory custom shop across the street. They get a $50 gift card to come in there. Where can we tint their windows? Can we do something? If not, they can pick out a T-shirt. Maybe we can get them to wear the brand. We try to create advocates through things post-sale, because when they have that relationship and they have that person, then when the word of mouth happens and they're talking to their neighbor about their new car, or they come back from the service visit, they're like, "Oh yeah, I go to Reichert. I go and see Rick, or I go and see Dave, and here, yeah, you just need to go see him. Just call them. You don't have to worry about anywhere else." Because that's what we want to do. We want our customers, once they get in our database, to become loyal customers, and they put blinders on, and they don't think that there's another dealership they can actually even go to. We are their place for their car, anything automotive. Just come to us. They don't have to think twice, just automatic.
Dan, you're doing a few of those things as well, like practical things that drive toward a retention strategy that is implemented across the group. Can you talk about a few of those things? And then I've got kind of a follow-on question to that too.
Well, I was looking at the data when we were talking about retention, and I was looking at it today. Our first year retention is 91%. Our 1 to 4 is 85%, and over a 10-year period is 60%. And I looked at it, I said, wow. I said, I thought we were pretty good, but looking at those numbers was phenomenal. So,
and that's just like retention to any connection to the
people
store?
coming back for service, retention of customers. So if somebody buys
Does
a car,
anyone here have over a 90% retention rate? That's unbelievable.
So, I mean, and I didn't realize that. I knew that we were pretty good, but just looking at those numbers, I said, well, we're doing a pretty good job, but we still have some areas of improvement. So some of the things that we do and is that some of our VIP customers, customers like you spoke about, that are the most profitable customers for us. We have a concierge person that will that they call to schedule their service, and that does constant follow-up with them. And if any of you have like a Marriott Rewards, I'm an ambassador elite, so I have one person that I can call if I have an issue, or if I have, better yet, or just I want to schedule something, somebody that you can talk to and always get on the phone. So they have their cell phone number, email address, and they even answer the call after hours. So want to feel like that. People want to feel special, that you can that they're getting something unique at the dealership. So one of the things also that's helped us
So you assign a concierge to every customer, basically?
No, to our best customers.
Love it.
Okay, so your top customers.
Our top customers, you have to qualify to be able to get that. And,
love that.
And that's one thing that we do, so they can call that person and not have to.
I promise y'all, I didn't even know that before we put this fan. This is genius.
That's because you haven't bought a car from us and spent enough
unbelievable.
money. But so and one
He's
of
like,
the
you better
things
come
that
over to Virginia. Yeah, you don't qualify.
you don't
Apologize.
qualify. That's
Yeah.
right. So for years we had an oil change program, a complimentary oil change. You buy a car, you get a complimentary oil change, and those programs are good. But what we found is that people, when they're just coming in for free stuff and it's complimentary, they're not opening their wallets. So what we ended up doing is that we kind of transitioned a lot from that, and we require people to do. We give them complimentary oil changes, fix complimentary oil changes, and most Nissans like an oil change every year. So, but in order for them to qualify for that, they need to do their recommended maintenance. So, the first one, it might be a tire rotation, or whatever. So, we're training people to open up their wallet every time they come in and spend some money. So. People are coming, I have people that drive 30 miles to just get a complimentary oil change, which I don't, for me, it doesn't make sense, but great. We retain them and we get to it. So when we look at the life cycle of that customer, when they start getting 3, 4 years, 5 years with their cars, I mean, you're talking about significant increase in dollars per RO on those customers. So those are things that we really try to focus on. And I know we had a prep call, and one of the things that we were talking about is retention of customers. Is also equally or even more important is retention of our employees. So, my company's name is Bannister Automotive, a family company, and we want to make sure that when a customer buys a car from us, they're actually treated like family, or in some cases better than family, because everybody's family's not, you don't treat like family.
Dicey, yeah.
So we want to make sure that we retain our employees. So the people, like Mr. Reichart said, you want to continue to see the same people every time that you come in, that you don't keep saying, this is a new person. People want to see the same people and get treated with great service. And so that's what we do. We focus on customer retention by, the oil change program, OLM program, and making sure that our employees have of longevity. And like my OLM, my concierge person, he's been there for 12 years, and that's the type of thing that are going to keep customers keep coming back.
The first thing I thought about when you mentioned the 91% was, I'm guessing that your employee turnover rate is less than 9%.
That's
because
correct.
that's the only way that number is going to work.
That's the only way that works. Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah. Can you break down for us how you set up this best customer thing,
how do you
basically the
segment that?
rewards program?
With us, we have Tekion. We just migrated to Tekion. But even with rentals, what we have, we can look and see the life cycle of the customer. We can see what they're spending, how much they spent in sales, how much they spent in service, if they're turning down their work, all that kind of stuff. So we can see a life cycle and spend for each customer.
Can you get real practical for me? I'm a dealer in the room, and I'm like, I want to try and start that. How did you create? Did you create a matrix to get to? When did people cross that threshold where you made sure that was intentionally done? Was that a number or?
See, I've had that position for many years. Nissan calls that position an owner loyalty manager, and many only have one in sales and service. I decided I want one for sales and service. It was the same thing with a concierge customer. Those that buy a significant amount of cars from us, they have their VIP concierge person themselves, and so does the service side. But many of these vendors out here can probably tell you that they have a system, even you have it, that can show the life spend of a consumer, and and not only let's, like Mr. Reichert was saying, we also put in the notes in there, the family notes, what they like, what they don't like, don't roll down the window, don't, all that kind of stuff. So we put stuff in there so customers know what to expect, and that we meet them to where they are instead of us forcing them to be where we want them to be. And so those right there are the things.
So,
that really
okay,
help.
really, how do you, is it once they spend 90 grand, once they visit 5 times, it's just kind of like a play it by ear.
I don't have a number that said, all right, this person qualifies for this. I just know that
it's a feel.
The people that support us the most, like when you come in and you get all your recommended maintenance done, and you give us a great survey, not the customer that comes in, complains everything and nickel and dimes you everything. That's not a customer that's going to qualify. They may have spent a lot of money, but is that the customer that we want to really invest in and make sure that
So it's like a feel thing. Like your team knows to like feel it out, understand. All right, we're going to move this person into
They know when a VIP
this.
customer comes in and we have decent service, but we want to step up that service even and better. And we don't do everything perfect. I mean, we make mistakes all the time. But it's not the mistake that you made, it's how you handle the mistake once that mistake happens. And that's where the concierge person comes in, that they can really help if something went sideways.
Yeah.
I want to point out something.
Go.
For other examples to this. If there's a dealer in the room that doesn't have an account manager with their vendor, AKA concierge, right? Or doesn't have someone that they can quickly dial, like, all of these tactics are really well represented by your vendors. In fact, actually, some of your favorite vendors are the ones that I would essentially copy into the blueprint of the dealership. Because we know that, I'm not gonna pick on any vendor, if you go to the largest vendors in our space, guess what? There's a VIP, there's an enterprise division, these guys are like the most important, we're gonna make sure they go to every single party division. That exists. We all know it, right? But that's actually the exact same way that we should be treating, I think, our customer base, right? Because we would demand nothing less from them. We would be like, yo, why am I on support for so long?
Well, I'm just
why the hell
thinking,
service
like,
taking so long?
why have the CRMs and DMSs not just like surface this, right?
Yeah.
It's there, but many of us don't know where to go to get it. It's there.
Yeah. But even just as like creating this, the Marriott experience or the Hilton or whatever it is, the reward, the Delta Sky Miles, like we should be able to come up with that as an industry. Okay, but here's actually the bigger question, because it's still going to be a small percent of people that do that. Now you're 91% retention rate, but it's still a small percentage of people. Like million milers at Delta, there's not many of them. I don't get a freaking handwritten thing on my seat when I sit down like Steve Greenfield does, right? In first class, but for the best brands, they do deliver a level of consistent service and sales experience to make sure that everybody feels some element of that. What do you think is the gap to getting all the way there right now? There's probably some level of like training and culture. I'm just going to give you that as the freebie. But are there other things that are in our way or in your way or that you're working on between like these VIP customers get this amazing treatment, and we know that these people are always, and we know these people's names, and then you got, Joe, never met his last name over here, that we hope has a great experience and hope comes back and maybe our email marketing hits him. Like, how do we fill the gap? He's like, someone else.
I mean, I would also argue that, like, for people that might be uncomfortable with the idea of segmentation, I think everybody's initial inclination is like, can't we just give the great service to everybody? Is that like polarization creates organization, right? So by having some sort of definitive cutoff line, you're actually organizing things into segments that can finally be managed. If instead you just focus on like everything should be good for everybody all the time, typically what happens is nothing is good any of the time. So like I'm a huge fan of having this VIP, but I do think getting to a point where you can essentially metric out your ICP, your ideal customer profile, that that people that live within 10 miles, okay, that's metric 1. Like people that tend to buy trucks, okay, that's metric 2. People that tend to blah, blah, blah. So you can have this profile, because I think it's not just about recognizing the VIP that we already know and love. It's when a new guy comes in, you're like, ooh, this guy looks like he could be a VIP. He fits the profile of all my other VIPs. He's net new, but I better step up my game to make sure that I add him into that segment.
I love that. I would love to know of a company that can do that. No vendors out here that can do that?
Well, yeah,
but,
I mean,
that would
the
be
data's
great.
there. The data's there. That's the
data's
thing.
there, but
Yeah.
how it is that you have the sales manager, service manager, and when it takes you 10 steps to get the data, or you have to go search for it, it's not going to. It has to be presented to that and make it very easy for those people to see it. Because if they won't use it, if it's not easy to attain, going to a general ledger or something like, they're not going to go through all that. You got to be able to present it to them. Here it is, and make it easy for them.
Right, like this person matches my ideal customer profile. I think like I mean, I'm 2 years into the vendor side of the business. I spent 12 years on the retail side, but there's like three things that kind of blow my mind that are much different from like retail, and I think that there's always things that like industry partners can learn and from dealers, and then vice versa. But one, cost of acquired customer, right, which is a much broader metric than just the marketing spend, right? It actually takes into account like personnel and travel and all of this stuff that's cost of acquired customer. So that's one. The next one is the ideal customer profile. It's just something that like most tech vendors just dial in. They know who is most likely to buy from them and stay with them. And then the one that I really want to lean into is that SaaS companies in particular, they don't actually pay attention to retention. It's not a word in their vernacular. They pay attention to something just slightly different that measures the same exact thing, and it's called churn. So like, okay, so I'm gonna tease this out with you two in particular because you're both looking at me like, okay, work with me here. So churn actually measures the loss rate, not the retention rate. Right, so it's expected that retention happens, and this is because there's monthly payment and things like that. So obviously we don't have monthly payments coming direct to us from these customers. It's a little bit different model, but they're looking for like less than 1% churn, meaning less than 1% of their customers leave them. So the calculation can actually be not how much does this customer spend with me this month, but how much does this customer spend with me for 99 months. Because my expectation is that only 1% of my customers are going to leave every 100 months. Or that there's only going to be one customer every 100 months that leaves, basically.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't realize, like, if you're a dealer in the room and you're spending $1,000 on some vendor and they have less than 1% churn, you are worth $99,000 to them. Like, just think about, one, how empowering that is. Like, that's crazy.
You're like,
everybody's like, I want to be on VIP right now. But two, that same level of thought, I think, is how you can apply it to certain segments of your current customer base, which is like, man, this guy has come in 5 times. He's referred friends. I've made money off of that. I've made money off of the service. There is clearly a ton of money to be made off of that group comparative to, some dude that came from Michigan, drove down, blah, 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 just because you had that one unit.
So do you think that it would, if your team was more focused on churn and less focused on retention, it might change the strategy? Oh,
absolutely. We're really a sales destination. Like our main campus isn't really within, look at the data, only 25% of our customers that we sell to live within a 10-mile radius. 67% of them live from 10 to 25 miles away. So we have to work even harder to try to get them back. So for us, we look at the 10-mile radius customers. We do look at the churn on that and think, okay, if they bought a brand that we sell, they live within 10 miles, like we need to bend over backwards to get them to get them back in. Because if it's their first time purchasing, I'll give a customer the benefit of the doubt. They went online, they did their 20 hours worth of research. They come in, they know the best price online. You can say they grind us down, but no, they came in with the information. So take that information, agree to it, sell them the car, now start the life cycle process and kind of start with a fresh, clean slate with them. Because if they are coming back for service and they are adding things after the sale, then they need to get into that VIP bucket and have that concierge person that, something that we did a few years ago is our concierge work out of the BDC. And our BDC was kind of entry level. We are bringing in part-time, we're bringing in college students. We need people with good voices that can answer the phone. We'll train them the word tracks. But that didn't really work. We were communicating, but we weren't engaging. And we started promoting our best salespeople into the BDC. Into the, they're great on the phone, the appointment setting. They know how to talk to people. They understand everything that goes in and out with the customer. Let's assign them to those people really, because that's probably the most critical role in the whole dealership now. Because that's not just
so your best salespeople then got promoted into the BDC.
Yeah.
That's a totally different.
that word, yeah, promoted.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Promoted into the BDC. Like that is a massive departure from the way that we typically, because that's a high turnover, entry level, low wage role typically in our industry.
So we're
right?
spending all this money to acquire these customers, and they're emailing in, they're calling in, and we're putting all of our money behind somebody at an entry level position with our fingers crossed that they're going to.
So what did you see?
Get that appointment set.
All right, give us the change in, because I'm sure the metrics all flipped. Hopefully.
Oh, overnight. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was like 100% increase.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Actual like show rates and actual, because now you have somebody who's not just scheduling a service appointment for next week and then hoping an automated system make sure that they come in. They're truly calling them the day before. They're reconfirming they need a loaner car. Do they need transportation? They're talking about mobile service now. They're talking about pickup and delivery. And once they choose one of those options, they can remember that. Hey, I saw you have a service appointment coming up. I just want to touch base because the last time you were here, we went and picked your car up. Would you like to do that again? And just remind them.
And that's and you did it for sales and service, or just service?
Yeah, no, it's both.
Sales
It's
and
both,
service.
yeah.
So how did is that a comp model, like just it went all whack like your comp, or what, or you just or it's pretty linear the way that your comp structure
No,
worked
because it's about doing more with less, having higher quality people. You don't need as many people.
Gotcha.
They are using smart, savvy sales skills to determine who to call and what those conversations are like.
Yeah.
Rather than running by a word track and making sure they have to tell everybody each little thing that we put on the sheet of paper to tell them. When most of them, they don't really care. They've already been in the store. That relationship's built. You don't have to go through all of that every time.
Yep.
They just want it. They want it easy. They just want us to show them convenience. They want us to show this that we know who they are. Appreciate them. Dan made the comment about it's a family business, treat them like family, but not always family. I tell them, treat them like influencers. Just assume that person has 50,000 followers on Facebook. And when they walk in the door, be excited to see them, like a major influencer, somebody that can influence the buying audience and drive other people through the door. I mean, if you don't know,
Because they at least have
1,000
followers on Instagram, right? And if they're mad at you, those 1,000 are going to know about it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. I've got the questions open. If you got questions for these cats, I'm watching everybody hit their phones. Either they're texting their best friend about lunch or they're getting on their app. But I got a question from Mike here. It says, when you consider the gross portion of customer lifetime value, what's included in gross? Front, back, dock, pack, recon, OEM, anything like that? Is it total spend? Is it net spend? Are you tracking that? I'm going to ask Dan that because it seems like you're kind of tracking that and looking at that metric. How are you measuring that?
We do. It's we track total gross, but we also look at the profit of each customer, because you can have a customer that comes in and buy $100,000 car, you make nothing off of it. So you could sell them 10 cars, and over the life cycle, you could make $100 on them or whatever. So we look at the profitability of each customer and what it takes and resources to be able to service that customer. So it's not always about the dollar spend; it's about the profitability of the dealership.
I love that. I think this question is for Rick. When your salespeople went into the BDC, is it still just like a dedicated BDC, or do you now have essentially an internet team that's taking the sales side cradle to grave? Or
No, it's not cradle to grave. They are gonna pass them off to a salesperson, but that person will come out and they'll come out and shake their hand and make sure that they know that person's there, and they're in this office that's behind the sales desk. But if they need anything, they're right there to help them, and they'll walk over. You'll see them sitting at the desk, having a water or coffee with them before they're writing the deal up and all that kind of stuff. So they're maintaining their relationship as well.
Absolutely. I want to bring this together because earlier we said the data's there for to understand the customer life cycle and present it at the time of initial purchase. Ben, you were like, the data's there. You kind of looked at me like this. When you look at this ideal customer profile and presenting to the data to either a service or salesperson, how do you imagine that? If there's someone in the room wanting to think through that, how do you imagine presenting some of that data or presenting some of that information? What would be the information that you think would be necessary to present? Especially because I know a lot of if you've been on the vendor side, you have Salesforce and you get a lot more of customer profile stuff. And so you understand that. But on the dealer side, we don't have that layer of like, oh, this is a fresh person. You don't have TechCrunch on, the mom blogger down the street, right? So TechCrunch, like if you have Salesforce, you're linked into TechCrunch and all of a sudden it's like, boom, they just did a Series D, right? Like I hit them. So talk through exactly what that might look like.
Yeah, I have no idea what the question was, but I can still talk. So
talk to her about how the data might be presented to a salesperson or service advisor in order to help them make a decision when a net new customer is coming in.
Well, so I think we could actually make it a lot less complicated than it's sounding. So I think what you'd find is there's probably ideal customer profiles to be measured in multiple different segments, and I think the CDP world is starting to really try and solve this, which is man, there's tons of first party data. We really should segment this out and try to quantify which ones we should go after. But I think if you look at at the OEM level, I'll go really extreme here. If I took all of the people that bought a Subaru and I stuck them in a room and I started probably playing Mumford and Sons, most of them would start dancing. Okay, because we know the Subaru ideal customer profile.
That was an easy one.
Easy.
Give me Mitsubishi.
No. No. How about do Toyota? Yeah. Take every Toyota customer and stick them in a room. They'd be like, I don't want to listen to this. No, put Paw Patrol on. Wait a second. Sorry, I have a 3-year-old, so Paw Patrol's fresh in my head. But right, you'd have this diversity. And now what I actually argue is that the first place that you could start thinking through these segments is actually if I took all of my VIP customers, or if I took all of my entire customers that I sold, and I stuck them in a room. What's the commonality? What music would they like? What things would they enjoy? That actually gives you a jumping point to start making sure that marketing is on point, that the feel of the brand, the promises, the values, all the things that you're trying to represent is on point and is speaking and communicating correctly to the people you want more of. And so I don't know if that even answered what you were asking, but
no, that's great. I mean, it sounds like you just change the music in the showroom and you'll be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Depending on the
you won.
dealership, just
you did it.
Out, there you go. I got it.
Yeah.
This is a great question, Jason. Thanks for this. And Rick or Dan, you just hold the mic up when I finish this, and one of you answer this. So, how are customers treated when they come in service? When they bought at a competing dealer, are they getting above and beyond service to try and get their business next time? Net new service customers, have you thought through what is that experience? Because we know sales to service is an important handoff, but service to service is an important handoff for net new. Have you thought about that experience?
I have, and we really focus on that when we see it's sales and service. When somebody comes in with a different dealer plate on the back, I mean, we're opening things up. And one of the unique things that we have that I don't know if many of you have heard about is UVI. I mean, it's a system where you drive your car through and it pretty much does the selling for the advisors. So you can see the depth of their tire wear and all that kind of stuff. So we are offering something that's unique that most dealerships don't have and that they didn't experience. So they drive through this tunnel and there's flashlights going off or and taking 3,000 pictures. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but it's amazing. So just offering those different experiences, and then it'll tell us if the car was purchased. If it doesn't have a decal on the back, where it was purchased and the history of it, and you can pull up everything with that car. So we know the last time they went to CarMax to get their car service. This time we're going to say, all right, why are they coming here? And we can sit down and consult with them and say, what made you come to our dealership, and make sure that whatever happened there, that we don't make the same mistake. So we really focus on that and try to roll out the red carpet for those customers that haven't done business with us before.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I can second everything that Dan just said. All that's important, and I'll take one more step further. So we've got a car wash. We offer car washes for life. The only requirement, you have our license plate bracket on it. So they come in from the other dealership. Obviously, we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they just moved to town. They didn't know about us yet. Our high-level marketing didn't quite work on them, so they bought the car somewhere else, but they're bringing it to us for service. We're assuming that we sold them the car. We're going to put our license plate frames on it. We're going to treat them like they bought it from us. We're going to try to bring them into our family.
Yeah, I love that. My friends, and they're here, and you saw we were at their dealership for the More Than Cars, but Mohawk Chevy, they have a thing called, they actually make it a fun thing. It's like the plate change challenge, right? And so they have the customer like throw their old plate in a trash can. It's really kind of fun. So, but I think that'd be a great, it's like, hey, do you want to take the plate change challenge? And it's like, boom, you take your old plate, toss it in the trash can, put the new plate on. Any other questions before we close this room? Yep.
So for each of you, what is your do one thing takeaway that you would have? One for a dealer, two for a vendor.
You got one thing that you would take away from today. Why don't you give the dealer, and both of them can give the vendor?
Yeah, I would say sure. Like we often think about and Rick was saying this earlier, it's like, this is the people business, but we talk about cars being commodities. That is only because we treat customers as commodities. And so I think the number one thing I would hope you take away from this is that there's gold in your hard drives at your dealerships, but to properly look for the gold, you have to map out what that gold looks like. You have to and that isn't someone else's decision. That is your decision. It's not like Apple, if we did the same thing, we had everybody go to an Apple store, they all could talk to each other, they would all kind of feel at home with each other because there's a very similar ideal customer profile. What I'm saying is that a lot of dealers that I've talked to haven't said, I'm putting a stake in the ground and this is the segment that we care about the most. If you do that first, then I think a lot of the other stuff becomes a lot easier.
So I'm talking from a vendor perspective. So my relationship with the vendors, I loved how we talked about that one point of contact, having that one person, that one phone call. And I think about some of the vendors that we've used that we have really good relationship with, and we've been with for a long time. We usually have a relationship with somebody high up, and it's almost like a backstop that if we know that our surface level rep isn't giving us the attention or telling us about what we need, we can go to someone, because a lot of times the reps that were assigned don't really have influence over all the departments. You think about DMS companies, I'm not going to say CDK out loud, but there's not one person to call. You have to know which department, and if you call somebody, oh, that's not my department, let me transfer you over, and to have that one-on-one attention, I think could be great from all vendors.
I love what you were saying about Ben, about looking at the whole customer profile, and I never really thought about listing how many referrals that we got and how many referrals we got from, because we do it with used cars. We look at we traded a used car and then we traded and we made money off of that, but I haven't really looked at it from a consumer perspective. All right, so I have one customer that bought a car from us and they referred their cousin, and their cousin bought a car and their cousin referred another person, and that's what I'm gonna really focus on that. And I would love to see if there's a vendor, because we have Tekion. We've been signed up for 2 months now, and it's a phenomenal system. And I don't think there's a report in there that I can really see the whole life cycle of the customer. And for any vendors
all
out
of
there,
they're connected
I want to see
to
every
right?
connection. I want to see the whole family tree, the whole route that's going. Because we put in a new phone system, and now I can see where the call came from, how long they were on hold, who transferred it, did it get picked up. And I can see the whole tree, and I can see until the final person, whatever. And I want to see the whole lifestyle with my customer. I know how much money they spend, how much we've made off them, but I want to see the total impact of that customer in our database, and to be able to see how many good surveys they gave us. How many did they do social media? Did they?
Yeah. So take out just
everything.
Profitability. It's like.
Right.
Like, are they a full-on advocate that leans in? Because if we lean into them, they'll probably continue to be a better advocate.
Right. So the biggest advocates are ones that obviously that are referring other people to you. So I want to know that, so I can see that, hey, thank you for referring such and such. And sometimes we forget about that, and I don't know about it. So I want to know about that. And those are people that are our best customers, that I want to have a personal relationship with each one of them. And then the other part, like Ben said, is that, okay, what is the threshold? And I don't have that yet, so I'm going to definitely go back and figure that out.
There you go. Hey, these people care about people, don't they? Give them a round of applause. Thank them so much for being here.